not conquered fully. The second one, when it comes to, once you have identified the problem, how do I respond faster? How do I solve problems faster, right? I come from 5-6 years of time in spending in a data operations team, where every day my infrastructure head will come running around for my team saying that something went wrong yesterday. Where is this team? Okay. So that team used to have a circular setup or office. The shout will be so much here loud that we know that, okay, I'll tell my team, okay, something wrong, it's time for a tea break now. So, jokes apart, the thing I wanted to mention was, those days we never had the tools or kind of thing which tells quickly that if some data updated wrongly in a table or some wrong data got updated in a table, it was very time consuming to understand which process caused the data issue, from where it would have originated, and what could be a possible resolution for it, right? So, if we had a lineage tools like, the kind of ones a team talked about, probably it would have made the life a lot more easier. So probably those are the two things I would say, two frontiers to conquer, right? A complete control over metadata and lineage. If you can conquer it, yes, the observability promise will be delivered.
Thank you, Natarajan. So Praveen, Ian, what is your take? I don't think you heard.
Can you hear me? Okay. Yeah. So I want to preface this with saying I have built 0 catalogs. My respect is 10 times bound to see Srini. I just jokingly said I did 0. I've been with, I would pick 2 companies in my past, and one being, if not top 10, but top 5 for sure in terms of storage volume, scale volume, the variety of data, and like the amount of business units that they support. My take on this challenge is, there is this problem of variety and veracity of data, and there is greed. Like, nobody wants to lose data that they might, 10 years down the line, they realize that, oh, I wish I had this data, but they don't know what to do with it, right? And one side there's greed, on the other side, nobody knows what to do with it. There is a pick that I want to come from what Anuj presented this morning, right? You need to know what you want to do with it, and then build the business KPIs, as we had another talk, right? The biggest challenge I would say is, what are the business KPIs? Not the dollars, not the storage size, not the metrics and anything. What business value you're getting out of data? Defining that has been the biggest challenge, and as a result of that, you don't know what to store, what you want to get in. You get the data from any kind of source that you want, even if it's streaming, if it's from the client directly, if it's from the services, if it's from analytics, metrics, you just start storing and you see like data volume.
I'm going to start with your next question, right? So now we have heard from all the panelists some of the tough challenges that they feel like, need to be solved. Lee talked about the real complex tech stacks that we have to deal with. Srini talked about the and possibly culture, like how it can want to talk about it. Natarajan talked about the metadata needs in that, and Praveen talked about just having the business KPIs and probably driving alignment and everything think should be followed up, or you believe in, that you feel these challenges can be addressed, maybe fully or at least even partially, leading us to a better world. Is it AI? I can give some, is it AI? Is it there's some great product that you have seen, or you see it's just the breaking point has reached, whatever it may be?
So to just, to take my version of your question, you're saying what is one of the breakthroughs you see in overcoming this challenge, right? Obviously I would put observability, but let me go beyond that. I definitely want to see other panelists talk about it. I would start off with clean data model. If you start building clean data model, then you start getting perspectives of what you want to do with it. You can identify good and bad data, the data that is really relevant to business. So that would be the beginning. The next thing, compute, more so than even understanding what you want to do with the data. Do you want to you have to build cubes, you want to build ML models. Everything compounds if the data model is not clean. So if you're, and one thing you can see, right, if your data model is not clean, you may run up with like 30 or 40% confidence on what the data itself is. And on top of it, you're actually going to build some kind of clustering, data modeling on top of it. Then you'll say, here is my prediction with some error margin around it. Then you associate dollars on top of the predictions. Then the business comes on top of that dollars to say, hey, I'm going to make my ROI risk against it. Think about the percentage of risk involved in every stage around it. They would have made a bad bet or their experiments would have failed. And they come back to the root cause of it to say, oh, wish we had this information ready. And guess what? That in raw format. So that's I would say the breakthrough is clean data model from the get-go. That's
really a quick clarification. Is data model the same here as a data catalog?
They go hand in hand, yeah. There isn't like, I wouldn't say it's two different phases. When you think that it's clean data model, then you start off with cataloging.
Okay, so maybe you're referring to catalog is more of the mechanism, the semantics of the data. That's probably what you're referring to as a data model.
Yes, absolutely.
Thanks, Rain. So, Shalini, I would like to pass that same question to you, right? Again, the question is, like again, we talked about challenges. What is one breakthrough or one major trend or something that you're seeing that gives you at least confidence, right? That things are moving towards a better world.
Yeah. And first, I'll agree to what Shiv said. Everything has to start with intent and agreement in the organization towards it. So first, understanding the value of data observability, which is something which we all need to, and the problems that we are talking under the umbrella of data ops and data observability, these are real. Everybody is aware of it. It is now that we are sort of shedding light on it and making it a mainstream discipline, understanding that there are tools which can solve it. And now when it comes to adoption, and so, I'm assuming that basically the intent is already there to, solve for this problem, which is very real, right? All of us have been facing issue with data reliability, accuracy, and the impact of it on AI and ML solutions that we build out of data, right? So if you have that intent, then comes the adoption of it, right? And when it comes to adoption, what I would look for is something which can really work for the data ecosystem that the customer has and can quickly generate value out of it. Now, the value could be, again, I'm sure you and Abhijit and all of you, Sean, will agree that you need to understand your customer, and every organization is not having, it's not one size fit all. Every organization has different type of problem. There are organizations where I have worked which has acquired, say, multiple organizations, right? Multiple companies, and they have all got their own data platform. They have a clear, say, data vision, and you become a partner of that. So depending on, most important is to understand where they are in their digital transformation, and then being able to generate value quickly. That is what will drive adoption of any technology.
Thanks, Shalini. So next I would like to hear from Srini.
Okay, so okay, just to remind everyone, we're talking about breakthroughs, right? What happened? So I want to take all of you back in history a little bit. When big data came in, the Hadoop ecosystem came in, that was a disruption that happened in the market, right? We've had databases and data marts and data warehouses, but when the modern data stack, the snowflakes and the data bricks, there's a disruption that happened, right, which helped the breakthrough. The latest disruption, of course, is the whole AI, right? So whenever these disruptions happen in the market, there is a certain breakthrough that I believe happens. We didn't talk about data observability 5-6 years back. It was like, okay, some fancy word. Today it's a real word. Forget that. 6 months back, nobody knew what a prompt or who a prompt engineer is. Right? Today, prompt engineer, oh my God, this is like the hottest job in the market. Right? So whenever there is a disruption that happens, it follows through with a breakthrough. And today, I believe the kind of tools that we have, the kind of automations, kind of smartness, intelligence, a little bit of an overrated word, if you will. But all of that in place today, I think really will help kind of go along with the complexity that, the beauty is we have introduced this complexity. We said, oh no, one database is not enough, we'll have 8 flavors of it, right? And then we multiplied with whatever number it is. So if we can introduce this complexity, I think we can have a breakthrough by introducing a solution for that as well.
Thanks, Srini. Can everyone hear? Yeah. So I would love to hear from you also, Narajan. Actually, before Narajan starts, next thing that we are going to do, I'm going to come back to the panelist. I'll let the audience ask one question to each panelist. Okay, after Natarajan finishes, we will go around. You have to ask one question and it's to a panelist, and if the panelist has already taken a question, you'll have to ask another panelist. Okay, so after this, we are actually going to do an audience session.
Okay. I think push was another option.
So once again, what we are discussing, we discussed all the challenges. The second question to the panelists was, what is one major breakthrough or something that gives you confidence that we'll get to a better world?
Correct. I think I will take a cue from what Srini said, right? The modern data ecosystem, when somebody put a picture of that in 2021 or something, we saw only around 20 to 30 logos in it, right? On 2022, we saw it's almost 100 plus. Last week I was looking at it, someone overcrowded that image with almost 200 plus tools. Now, what does it mean, right? Which means that the amount of metadata which this platform needs to acquire is going to be also growing more complicated. But what else also happening is all these platforms provide some mechanism to interchange metadata. I know we still have a way to go there. These tools are opening up their metadata layers, allowing the platforms to take help from that metadata and do it. So I think given that spirit, all these tools are opening up metadata. I'm sure once I still stick to the original statement, right? If we can control the metadata of this ecosystem, I think we will be heading to a better place.
Thanks, Rajan. So you've heard from every panelist on something they consider as a major challenge. You've heard from every panelist something they consider as potentially a big breakthrough or a path forward, right? So now I want the audience, and again, you get to ask one question, right? You have to also, it's not an open question, you have to also pick a panelist. Okay, so who wants to go first? Snehit?
For either of you, because you kind of covered.
Let's start with Srini.
Okay, all right. I think Samir talked about this domino effect of starting with a bad data model which impacts the ROI calculations in the end with basing some model on the bad model itself. But we are data systems, right? We are most of the times downstream, right? What impacts a bad data model can probably be a bad business process or a bad, for example, a source to begin with. And most of the times, we as a downstream system, we know something about the change last than being informed first, which would have actually impacted how we built the data model, how we built the ML model, how we impacted the ROI, for instance. Right? So my question to you is, do you think there is some element of data literacy or a culture that, of course, we cannot resolve, but we can influence by making sure that through data observability and making sure that to be able to showcase that, hey, whatever you are blaming us on from a data team standpoint is actually something that you guys started, right? Taking one step back beyond the data systems itself.
So if I understood this, what you need is a root cause analysis. Right. Now, the interesting thing about root cause analysis is we need to get into more of a blameless culture. If something is wrong, it's not the person, it's not the tool, it's the process, right? So in your case, when you said, hey, there is some business decision that happened, we didn't even know about it. It has to start from that, right? How do you disseminate information? And there are tools that do it, right? There are tools which says, hey, by the way, I'm going to change the data type for this particular column, be aware, right? How do you do that with a tool? lineage. It's a great way to look at impact analysis and say, if I make a change from varchar to nvarchar, what is going to happen, right? And if you can get that visibility even before making that change, it's beautiful. I mean, today, DBT, for example, has a way of having all of this in the YAML file, right? Now imagine you make a code change in the DBT and then have a GitHub action which says, let me get the impact analysis before I make this change. And attach it as part of the PR. Now you see what you have done, you've made a process as part of your regular software development lifecycle. So I'm kind of going back to what I said earlier, right? It all starts with that mind shift. We need to put that, kind of ingrain that it has to become muscle memory. And when that happens, right, it's not going to solve the world's poverty problem. It will not solve your problem at all. But it will at least give you the visibility into where it is, so your mean time to detect, resolve, all that can start coming down. So that's kind of my take on it.
Thanks, Srini. So we'll now take the next question from the audience. You have to pick. Go ahead, Kalyan.
Yeah. So as we are talking about AI, as we are talking about challenges in observability, right?
And you also have a panelist in mind to ask a question too, right?
No. Yeah, I'm open to hear from any of us. Yeah.
Okay,
so
then
maybe
I'll go with the
Ravin.
panelist. You ask a question.
Okay, I'll go with Ravin then. Okay. So my question is like, what are the potential risks and challenges of heavily relying on automated observability tools without having human oversight and intervention? So what are your thoughts on that?
So the question is a very interesting question. So on one hand, we are talking about automation, observability, and all these tools, right? So are there any potential risks? What are we kind of signing up for if we're doing that? Shani, I would like you to take that.
Sure. So this is, when you say unmonitored or completely automated AI solution for observability, whether it is for observability or for any other application, the same principle will apply. The AI model has to mature to a level where it becomes robust enough for it to be left unattended or has to become reliable, right? So I think it will be the same principle, and I'm sure organizations like Unravel and other players who are in this market, they will do the due course. But otherwise, typically how it works is you monitor your models, right? Yes, the model is supposed to be, to do the automation, but then model also needs to be monitored, right? You monitor your model, you monitor your patterns, you monitor the results, and then the consumer. So it is supposed to make the system more, efficient. That doesn't mean that, it becomes a robot which is running on its own, but at the same time, the same AI application maturity and the same principle will apply. You have to, and it has to be very contextual, very custom, right? Every organization, and it has to be ever evolving. So that is something which will not go for any AI application, right? Because patterns will keep changing, new tech stacks will come, new ways of optimizing your payload will come, and all that the model has to be trained on top of it and learn more and become more reliable.
Yeah, thanks, Stanley. So in fact, one interesting experience, I just like to share this in 30 seconds, right? So in some of the early stages of the work that eventually became Unravel, we had created a solution. We presented it to a big enterprise team that is trying to solve the problem of, we have queries running on a database, we have storage in a distributed storage kind of system, and then if there's any problem happening, how do you troubleshoot it, right? And after the entire demo and presentation was given, the people said we'll take the visualization that puts all this data together. You can keep your AI. Because the reason they said that is, hey, we will lose our job if the AI is wrong. It was an interesting experience, right? Well, I'd like to take a third question from the audience. So we have Srini and Shalini are out, right? So there's a question. Why is it that only people on this side are asking questions?
I mean, any one of you can answer it, but it's mostly related to the business side of it. So let's say in the current scenario which I work, we are addressing a data strategy to a big US-based retail client. So they have a lot of use cases to solve. For that, they need to invest around 100 million. And then their cloud infrastructure cost is around 20 million. Now they come and ask the question that why do they need to invest in data ops? And what is the value which it gets out of, everything they do? So, I mean, this is a question where I get to listen a lot. And defending that over solving the real use cases becomes hard. So they have their business supply chain use cases, planning, procurement, and all that. So any thoughts on that, or any,
Shellys is itching to answer that question, so I'll let her answer this.
Yeah, so I'm going to hand it over to basically to you to answer this. But then before that, this problem of convincing customer, convincing your business partner will always be there, whether it is for this solution or for anything else, right? And as I said, I think somebody talked about it earlier also, you have to basically show the value in the language that they understand. And most of the business understand the language of cost and the language of SLA and the value that it can create. So you have to start with the business problem. And you need to understand the business problems that this data can unlock, right? The kind of value that it can create. Like suppose we are doing forecasting and it can say automate inventory ordering. If at all you show the value that it can create, a wrong decision in that area can create. And if you can show tangible value, that is when they can understand the value of it. That is where I'm sure, and how it will create the value, right? What kind of value it can create and how quickly. That is where you have to look at tools like Unravel and other technology in this space, right? So maybe you can add more to it as to how the value can be created.
No, that's great. I think that was a great answer. I would love to actually take another question that's come up. The gentleman over there. Sanuj, just behind you. Behind you. Okay.
My question is basically, much has been talked about, data model, starting fresh, all that is okay, fine. As far as creation of the right AI model is concerned, that is the end stage, I believe. For that, we have to start with having a good data model and then subsequently going around. What are your strategies so that we achieve the end objective that is a good model for maybe prediction or maybe for the future? So what are your strategies of data ops right from the beginning itself?
Great question, since I think that matches what Praveen you were talking about.
So I would start off saying this, right? There is no one good AI model today, right? However, instead of shooting for a North Star, I would start off with starting to silo your goals, silo your product, or even the use cases that you have, building few models, build experimentations around it, then iterate over it, and then start expanding on the side, right? That would be if it's to really understand how those things are actually going to build ROI to your business. So I would certainly not present it to the business to go running with it, to make money out of it, or even to the product team to say, hey, start building things. I would certainly approach it with start building 3 data models, build 3 experimentations. If it's a B2C product companies, roll it out as 3 different experimentations. If it's within the B2B, then we'll figure out a way to roll out 3 different models, work with customers, understand how the feedback channel is, and then decide on the next course of action. That would be my approach.
So we can take one more question. And that question I would like Natarajan to answer. He actually spoke about some of the big challenges around metadata, right? Metadata and getting, that is, in fact, something I can also relate to. Right? Just like we have a lot of data, but we can extract good metadata. One very simple example. In the cloud, everybody talked about FinOps and cost and understanding, right? If only people were to tag things properly, if only, that could make a major difference, right? So metadata is big. Who has a question for Natarajan? Abhishek has a question. Oh, no. Abhishek is... Okay. Shauri has the question.
Hey, hi Natarajan. So, one thing that I've noticed is in machine learning operations especially, model like we talked about should be updated and reviewed and so on. So having a feature store in a model registry becomes super important, right? So what I have struggled with personally is observability in the pipeline that connects your model registry to your actual prediction APIs. And it would be interesting to see how you would solve these kind of issues.
Sure. Thanks a lot. It was an interesting question. When I saw in our things, right, we have been talking about how ML, what ML can deliver to observability, right? And now you're asking the other way of the question, how you can bring observability into the ML models, right? So, as you rightly said, right, the capabilities, what you see in today's world's ML ops platforms, right? Be it the feature stores where you can store multiple versions of these features. Similarly, model registry, which keeps a record of how the different experimentation worked, how each of them performed on a given set. So any model ML ops platforms, if you look at it, they are more or less kind of progressing in the direction where it brings that observability into the model itself, right? For example, I can quote, again, I am not going to quote the product, but as we have seen that, for example, in the predictions, why that prediction has happened that way, right? For example, fraud was detected, right? I worked with a payment service provider where we implemented a fraud engine. At the time, this concept of ML observability or explainability were very Greek to us, to the data team, right? So when there is a rejection happened, fraud been triggered by the fraud engine, we used to run around the floor and then finally call for our ML team is sitting in another country, and for them to get an right answer as to why that false fraud alarm got triggered. By the time it would have been a nightmare on the in our floor. But to come back to your question on right, but if you see these platforms these days, they give you right in their thing saying that why this particular thing flagged, which particular feature influenced it, what was the threshold. So all those informations are fortunately available today. I think many of the MLOps platforms, if you see today, I think you will see those features and definitely you'll love it, right? Obviously, who wants a black box model? The model is no more black box. At least you know what's influencing it and what is influencing even the outcomes. So yeah, that's where I would.
So the explainability is so extremely important these days, right? Thanks to the audience for the questions. So we'll come back to, again, my questions to the panelists, right? So we have seen, the next question to all panelists is the following, which is, we have seen great innovations happening in AI. Is there anything that you see that leads you to believe, hey, this is something which is groundbreaking or which is very interesting, which is something that you even personally have experience with from AI that will help with these problems of observability and cost management and things like that? So it's, again, AI helping solve this problem better, not these problems apply to AI models. Maybe Nataraj, since you have the mic, you can actually start off on that.
Okay. If I understood your question.
I can ask one more time. So it's basically, again, AI's tremendous innovations happening. So is there anything that you have seen in those innovations, like you can say ChatGPT is amazing, right? But anything you have seen which leads you to believe that those solutions apply to these observability problems, tech stack, metadata, data model, like all of those things, right?
Yeah.
Data culture actually will lead us to a better world, yeah.
Sure. In fact, during lunchtime, I was talking to Srini, and his company was building something similar. So probably I would like to quote one example where the AI and ML, what it can bring to observability, right? Recently, I've been part of a couple of data catalog implementations. One of the challenge we ran into was who will build the business glossary first, right? Or who is willing to spend time and create descriptions for your tables or your columns? No one was literally willing. So when we sat with the team saying that, okay, our team will do it, but then for us, how do you go about building those descriptions, right? First, you need to understand the metadata, the structure of the data, have a look at the sample data, and then go about start writing your inference of it, right? So one of the use cases that was coming to my mind was now that these kind of LLM models can be fed with a context. So can I pass, for example, a sample data of a table and ask this model to generate a description for me? So that was one interesting use case. In fact, when I saw that, probably Srini's company was working on something similar, like generating descriptions for the columns, generating descriptions. So there are a good amount of automation can be brought into those dirty works which data engineering, including no one in the team, sometimes don't want to put their hands on.
You go next.
Sure. So I have two things. Okay, so one that I know of, and I'm going to take a cue from there into our data world. One of my buddies are actually exploring the ways in which they can actually use AI models like LLMs specifically and ChatGPT to plug in and start analyzing your API logs, right? And self-heal it, like with zero human intervention. Look at the logs, analyze the logs, apply the recommendations. We already know all the possible, like there's some, like last I heard is like there's some roughly around like 500 odd various different AWS related log errors that you can actually do a self-heal on, and then just eliminate the need of the first line in defense, right? And that's like, if you just translate that to the amount of hours spent on just managing cloud, that's going to be huge in terms of dollars. So let's just pin that conversation. That's just a motivation behind what the other person, my friend, is actually doing. So let me come back to what you presented this morning. What you showed is like 3 lines with a prefix pattern and the date pattern, and then you made some prompt engineering efforts, like just basic ones, and it showed that, oh, there is a pattern, right? What would be the next thing? If you look at what Unravel does, right? We basically say, hey, this is a recommendation. This was the Spark error, like here is how you can optimize your query, be it MR job, Spark job, whatsoever, right? Those can actually be fed as part of the prompt engineering to get the next level detail and start building real actionable insight and start seeing the value of what we are actually providing as an insight. There's no, and this is some, like, this I have been sharing with Shivnath in our one-on-one conversations, but then it applies here, right? There is nothing that you get value out of by just showing as an insight. Literally nothing. Like, today it can be like a pleasure that you're actually showing, then you can feel, you can tap on your back. That's it. That's pretty much it, right? What really means to business is, what's the realized value of that insight? What have you really saved dollars? Have you really optimized your queries that it's improving, it's running faster? How can you get there? The common problem that you deal with is when you show insight, the next step is to actually apply that in your production workload. How many of you have been presented with some request that you had to do, but it's a production workload and you're basically going out of the room to say, okay, I've got this assignment. I don't know, I'm not super confident. What else would break? Who other person in my team is actually using my workload? How am I going to touch this? How am I going to release this? I'm sure many of you would have gone through this at least once in your lifetime. This part, I believe, gains.
Thanks, Praveen. So next, I actually want to just quickly hear from Shalini, because she has expertise with AI and we've been building models and observability. Go ahead, Shalini.
Yeah. I was already wearing my product manager hat and was having a wish list. So you are trying to optimize things for your own team, looking at optimizing within your organization budget and pipeline. And if you look at across the organization, setting up larger clusters, and then you look at optimizing the work schedule, right? Because you have different multiple tenants, right? And then that is where your optimization technique will come into play, where you can really look at what is their SLA, how much time they take, how they can be optimized to, match the calendar, right? So you need to optimize the usage of those reserved instances, and how do you give the slots to tenants so that they can complete their jobs and then meet their SLA and still, share the cluster in a most optimal way. So this is just I have a long list of wish list. I'll tell you later.
Thanks, Shalini. So we're kind of running out of time here, but I'd love to hear from Srini and before we wrap up the panel.
Oh, I'll keep it short. I want to sum up everything that the LLM is telling us, everything API, ChatGPT is telling us, what observability is telling us, hey, I'm not just monitoring information, but I'm giving you very actionable insights. Please work on it. Right, and if you don't work on it, the AI is going to pick it up, learn it, and it's going to do it on its own, right? So that's the most important thing, right? Make it actionable.
Thanks, Srini. I want the audience to give a big round of applause to all our panelists. Thank you. Thank you.
Check. Hey. Check. Yeah, that's mine. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together for all the panelists that were here. Come on. If you'll notice, there's the QR code again. This is the last time that you're going to get into the DQ, which is the data quiz or the data quotient. So come on, guys. The previous winners of the second quiz which took place. We're not talking about the speed thing. The other one is Banu Dasari. Banu? Where? We're all backbenchers only. Come on, guys, make some noise for Banu. Come on. And Neil. Stand up, Neil. Say hi. Come on, guys, put your hands together for Neil and Banu. Both of them scored 100 out of 100. So for that, come on, guys, as Indian kids, we all dreamed of getting 100 on 100 in all our papers, no? They did that today. I wish you don't meet my parents. So up next, we have the last and final DQ. Please scan it. It's going to be up and running in a few minutes. You'll get exactly 5 minutes to complete this quiz. So if you'll have to get up and come forward and scan like this gentleman right here, you can absolutely do that. So in the meantime, I'd like to call upon our lightning talks candidate, Mr. Sai. Hi. Come on up. You can start setting up for your conversation with all of us. Guys, you'll remember what happens when someone comes on stage. You say, "Hi, Sai." No, I caught some of you all yawning. It's okay. This is not like fast fingers. You can answer, take your time and answer the correct answers. Okay, everybody, eyes to the stage. Say, "Hi, Sai." Sai, they're saying hi to you, bro. Hi, so cute. All right, while you guys are answering that, Sai, can I trouble you for a moment?
Hi.
Hi, Sai.
Hello.
Okay, Sai, I'm going to teach you a little bit of beatboxing. You're going to do that now. It's okay. No, it's okay. See, anyway, you're nervous about the presentation, so I'm just going to get you more nervous. Okay, so the first sound you're going to do is... You're saying... you're saying two. Okay, but you're going to go...
No.
Close enough, that was my fault. All right, the second sound you're going to go... A little bit less shy. You go... Super. And the third sound... Oh, that's everyone wants to do, no? Cat callers, I see you all. All right, so what's the first sound?
I don't know.
No, not two is the right enthusiasm, but you got to go... Okay. All right, second sound. Third sound. Okay, now after me. He knows, he can just straight up say no. All right, everybody, you guys heard the three sounds, right? What's the first sound? Beautiful. Second sound? Third sound? After me. Come on, guys, give a big round of applause to Mr. Giri. He's the only one who got it right.
So this is for friend, right?
Okay. How many of you are almost done or have completed the quiz? Please put your hand up. Like the recent one. We have only one. Hi, sir. Good job on completing the quiz early. The rest of you, just going to give you another 2 more minutes. Are you ready, Sai? All right. Sai is going to be presenting to you guys right now. Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together for Sai Vasant.
Am I audible? Yeah. Yeah, at last I was here. So actually my talk was before lunch, but due to some butterfly effect, I'm here right now. And I will give my introduction at the end. I think I have only less time. So I know people are crazy and they are done with lot of gyan from the morning. So my talk involves maybe a little bit not so professional, maybe in an engaging way. I will go, okay? And so this talk will be mostly on the lot of speakers have from morning onwards, right? The panel discussions related to the observability, cost, FinOps, all this stuff, right? So maybe this lightning talk will be the high level view, you can say the highlights of what we have learned, maybe connecting the dots and how can we leverage it like that. So first of all, what is a lightning talk? Lightning talk means I will come up with bunch of jargons, fearful architecture diagrams, heavy data flow diagrams. At the end of the 15 minutes, I will speak for those jargons for rest of the 15 minutes. At the end, no one will get nothing, but I will get claps. It will not be like that. So we'll go in a use case driven manner. So what's the problem? What's the solution? We'll have a clear picture in my mind. So I want everyone to engage in it. So the topic is driving cost efficiency in BigQuery through data observability. What are the practical strategies and techniques we can apply? So this is specific to BigQuery, but we overall touch upon the problems. Okay. First of all, what is the problem? There is an org, okay, and they have some use cases. Assume the use case can be, they have a lot of IoT sensors are there and they getting the data. They want to process it and generate reports. Or you can assume another use case. You watch Disney Hotstar, right? Or Amazon Prime. Every 5 seconds or 10 seconds, they will collect the data from you. What are the metrics, metadata, where you are touching the screen, and how is the network buffering. All these reports, they want to generate the stats and everything. So they are trying to solve this problem, but traditional data warehouse has some problems. As you can see these things, right? They have some security issues, upgrade scenarios, manage the permissions, get the approvals, infrastructure management, lot of stuff has to be there. So what they thought was, let's move to cloud. So yeah, they are exploring all the possible cloud options, and one of the options they are trying to well into was Google BigQuery. So how they came to that decision, that's out of scope. Just assume like they have gone for the Google BigQuery. Now, what is BigQuery? BigQuery on a high level, it's a cloud data warehouse which handles data at petabyte scale, and you can generate the insights and you can run all your workloads there. So what it will say is, you don't worry about the underlying infrastructure. You just focus on your business logic. You just focus what is your goal, insights, and you run your workload and then you pay the bill. Okay, then it is nice. Now, the org has moved all those workloads to BigQuery and the life, everything is smooth, life is happy. They are deriving insights, getting the value, no maintenance. Wow. Now, one day, all the executives have set up a meeting with their cloud network head or the executive who is dealing with entire BigQuery, right? He's saying, cloud cost is skyrocketing. We need to cut it down by 50%. Let us assume they are spending maybe $10 million per year, maybe relatively less amount, but more. They want to cut it down. And without compromising on the efficiency. And on hearing this is the reaction of that executive. And this is his expression, right? Now, he has a difficult task to solve. He has to analyze what is the problem. He wants to know the problems to solve, right? We can say, okay, let's save the cost. But how can we do it? Let's explore that use cases. Now, he sit down and he discussing with the team, and these are the use cases. So BigQuery has something called as on-demand versus capacity. On-demand pricing means it's like a post-paid recharge. You do your phone calls, whatever you want, at the end you pay the bill. Similarly, you run the workloads. At the end of the month, you pay the bill for what you have used. Capacity-based pricing. It's like a prepaid recharge. For whatever the amount you recharge, right, you have to use it in that limit. Similarly, you buy some computational capacity. In that capacity only, you have to run your workloads. Okay? This is the two types of models BigQuery has. Now there are a lot of SQL inefficiencies. So in the big org, lot of developers are firing the queries and there is no control at all. How can we control those inefficiencies and how can you point out those dollars? How can we caught them, right? It's all the stuff he has to monitor. There is a slot contention. What is a slot? A slot is nothing but a virtual CPU. You can imagine, and it has some network, some RAM. And whenever you submit a workload, right, BigQuery will run all those workloads in those slots and aggregate the result and give the result to you. Next, there is slot contention means your jobs are running, but they are not getting enough resources. They are fighting for the resources. That's what is meant by slot contention. Next, over or underutilization of slots. So in BigQuery, you have a concept called reservations, where you will buy some reservations and you assign it to projects. So he observed, right, some projects, their reservations are underutilized and some are overutilized. So he has to tweak them in order to save some cost. Next, there is a storage cost. Oh, then up to now we have talked about the compute, but there is also a storage. BigQuery is the, you can say, cloud data warehouse, which separates both compute and storage. You have separate pricing for both of it. Next, he thought like need for alerting. So it's like a prevention is better than cure. Many of the, I think from morning onwards, we have seen so many discussions. We blow up the cost and next day we have decided to do the root cause analysis or postmortem. So instead of that, whenever a user fires a query and it is going out of the limits, right? So if it tells you like, gives an alert, say you have gone out of the limit, maybe the job itself has to be cancelled automatically. So there should be one platform. And there are some concept of schedule queries. So what is schedule query means? You have one query, you schedule it and it will run. It's like these are the things he has to do at a high level. So this is the pose of that executive. It's like multitask of madness. I think you have people know about multiverse of madness, right? It's like a multitask of madness. He has so many things to do. Now, okay, what is this? So, you all know about rats, right? So, in our house or some food restaurant, there are rats. So, what they will do? They will run in front of you, okay? And they will make creepy sounds when you are sleeping. They will destroy the things. And then, ultimately, they will affect your revenue. Or, they will cause firefighting because they will maybe eat up some wires. Or, ultimately, what they will do is they will disturb your revenue. So, you can compare the inefficiencies which have showed in the previous slide, right? Like rats. You can't kill them, you can't run after them. But you need one rat bone, where all the rats can come there and you can do whatever you want once the rats are captured. It's your personal preference. Similarly, you need one tool where all these inefficiencies get captured in one place and you can take the necessary actions. So that's where, ladies and gentlemen, I'm introducing Unravel. I think not the introduction you know from morning onwards. A single pane of glass for data observability, right? Where Unravel will show all the queries, inefficiencies at one place and you take action. And this is the complex diagram. I don't want to go into it because of the time. It just lists all the mechanisms that Unravel can do. Now, what are the practical strategies and techniques? We just quickly go over one by one. Avoid select star. This is the basic and ineffective way of using the query, right? So BigQuery